So then for graphing, what we're going to do is make a table of values and graph the quadratic function. So remember from chapter 5, we want points that are negative. We want x values that are negative. We want x values in the middle, and we want x values that are positive. So that way we can see what's happening all over the graph. So I picked -4, -2, 0, 2, and 4. I plugged them in. So remember order of operations when you plug them in. And then you get your y values. And then I just plotted those points. And remember, because we're talking about parabolas and we're talking about quadratics, you want that U-shaped function, right? So I graphed my line and I drew it, and that's it. That's all we had to do. So then I did the same thing for example B. Some negative points, something in the middle, some positive points, found my values, drew my parabola, I'm good to go. So then I asked, okay, so what observations can you make from these two graphs? They both open up. They're both U-shaped, okay? But what's different about them? Well, this one's wider and this one's more narrow. Well, what's causing something to be wider and what's causing something to be more narrow? I want you to look at the functions and I want you to look at the equations. What do you think is causing this to be wide and this to be narrow? It's going to be the fact that this is a fraction and this is not a fraction. This number is greater than 1. So that's what I want. That's what I wrote down here. Example A has a fraction. So when a fraction is involved, your parabola is going to be wide. Okay? When B, so example B has A, so that number in front of x squared, A, that number is greater than 1. So when that number is greater than 1, it's going to become more narrow. So let's say it was 3, 4, 5. It's going to get skinnier, 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 skinnier every time as that number gets larger. So then example 3, we followed the same process as above. We picked some negative numbers, some something in the middle, and some positive numbers. Found our points, graphed it. Same thing with example B. Okay? This time, what observations can you make? Well, they're kind of similar in wideness, right? But what else? This has +3 and this has -4. How does that affect our graph? Well, +3 means it's going up 3, and -4 means it's going down 4. So one thing that I want to show you and point out to you is that this is the general form of quadratics that we're going to work with, okay? We might work with something that's a little bit similar to this as well, and you'll kind of see when we go through that. But first and foremost, A is that number in front of x squared, right? And A, if it's positive, that means it's going to open up. And if it's negative, that means it's going to open down. That's one of the first things we talked about. But also, if it's a fraction, it's going to be nice and wide. But if the number is greater than 1, it's going to be nice and skinny or narrow. Okay? And then the other thing we talked about today was that when we have a plus C or minus C, if that number is positive, it's going to move our graph up. But if the number is negative, it's going to move our graph down. Okay? So those are the few key takeaways from today. And if you have any further questions about this, please let me know.